Hello, everyone, and welcome to Experience Beyond podcast. In this episode, we are diving into a topic that every business needs to master to stay ahead in today's competitive landscape. CX Playbook for Future Proofing: How to Ridiculously Become Easy to Do Business with. I am Anand Nigam, your host, co-founder and director of XEBO.ai, and co-founder and promoter of Foresight CX. Over the years, I've seen how businesses that simplify their customer experience not only retain customers, but also build a significant competitive advantage. To help us unpack this essential topic, I'm thrilled to introduce a true expert in the field, David Avrin. David is an internationally acclaimed customer experience keynote speaker and consultant. With over 2 decades of experience, he has traveled the world speaking in front of audiences across Singapore, Buenos Aires, Melbourne, London, and beyond, helping companies understand their changing customers and future-proof their business strategies. David's focus on making businesses easy to work with has transformed countless organizations. And today, he is here to share his insights on how you can do the same. We are honored to have him on this show. Welcome, David.
Thank you so much, my friend. The honor is mine. It's great to be here to share any opportunity to share with our fellow colleagues and business professionals around the world to help us be ridiculously easy to do business with.
So, David, you have helped businesses across the globe to become ridiculously easy to do business with. So, what common challenges do companies face when trying to simplify their customer experience?
Well, I think the biggest challenge that they face is striking a balance between efficiency and productivity and profitability and what the customers are looking for. You know, I have great respect for people in business. People know what they're doing. People are working really hard. I was on a podcast and somebody asked, why is it that they just don't get it? I said, I think they get it. I think people are very smart in business, but what works for a business that gives them some level of predictability of revenue, predictability of their customer journey, and with that comes profitability and cash flow, is hard to balance against what's preferable for our customers and clients, right? It's not just about competency. It's not about being good at what you do. That's the basis, right? That's the entry fee. It's about how do we do that and still be preferable to our customers and clients. Our process is the process from the customer's perspective. Is it simple or is it maddening, right? Is it frustrating or is it intuitive? And so the hardest part is that everything's changing, right? A whole new generation of conveniences that offer speed and flexibility balanced against organizations, many of them who've been around for decades, who know what works for them, but maybe it doesn't work like it did 5 years ago.
Okay, so it's a changing time. They need to keep evolving their technology piece or the processes to make this change happen.
It's making the evolution, but also without losing predictability, without losing efficiency in their process. You know, if we did everything that our customers want, we'd go out of business, right? And that's the hard part, is the balance, because customers want to talk to somebody right away. They want issue resolution right away. They want their products available right away, and they want them cheaper than what anybody else can do. And so it's a very difficult time to be in business, right? It's a great time to be a customer, right? Because we have a whole new generation of conveniences, but it's tough to be in business. You know, when I ask business leaders and I talk to them across the globe and I ask them, what do you think your competitive advantage is? It's always some version of quality, commitment, caring, trust. It's about the people. And I smile, I say, well, all of that's important. Here's what the research shows. Customers are prioritizing speed.
Right.
Speed of answers, speed of access, speed of issue resolution, speed of delivery. They're prioritizing simplicity of process. Don't make it complicated. Buy with one click, whatever that might be. And of course, they're prioritizing convenience. In many ways, convenient today is better than better. Everybody's good. Everybody can get it to us. Who's easier to work with? Who can I get it faster? Who can respond faster for what that is? So it's a balance. It's not just evolve, but it's evolve and remain profitable. It's evolve and not overspend on technology. It's evolve and not implement processes that are frustrating for our customers, right? That's part of the challenge, the balance of the bean counter, the CFO, who would love to cut staff and just implement chatbots and digital assistants, and then customers who want the option of that, but they also want the option of a real person. So it's a very, very difficult time, but it's important, as you said, to keep evolving, but they require
Right.
some really deep conversations.
So I know it's a challenging time and there are challenges which these companies face. There are barriers. But once the businesses have identified what these challenges are, what these barriers are, in your experience, David, what should these companies do to break them down, these challenges and barriers, and then streamline their entire customer experience process?
Well, I
What?
think you said it exactly right. I think they have to break it down. And that's where journey mapping and some of those things come in. Because the reality is, I walk into organizations, I don't think their processes are broken. I never use the term improve because I think there's a connotation that they're doing something wrong. And I don't know that they are, but I always use the word enhance. How do we enhance this? How do we bolster this? So it starts with breaking down the process, literally walking through your customer's journey from beginning to end, from seeking information about a product or service to finding you to reaching out, all of those points along, and find out where there is friction in the process. Things that may work for us as a company may not work so well for them. And they work for us because we're also very familiar with it. We know where to find things. We know how to get to things very, very quickly. Oftentimes, our customers do not. And so there may be aspects of your customer journey that are working perfectly. And there may be a few things that worked perfectly 3 years ago, but
Right.
there's a new expectation that comes from Amazon or Alibaba or Uber that changes our mindset and our expectations for how do we expedite that. So we have to ask the question. We look at every point of contact. Is that the way it should be done? And it may be the way we do it, and it may be the way our industry has done it for 50 years, but look how much has changed in our lives. So some of the best disruption, some of the best innovation is coming from asking a different question. And the question is, if our customers could wave a magic wand, how would we do business differently? So we look at any point of contact. It's astonishing to me as I come across companies all over the world and who are very restrictive in certain parts of their policy because that's how they work. Clients ask me all the time, do you take Venmo or Zelle or PayPal or Square? And the answer is yes. Yes. I mean, they're trying to pay me. So I find ways to accommodate as much of that as possible. The biggest danger is getting comfortable with doing business that you're really good at. But when you ask about, so what's that process? The process is having a process. The process is breaking it down point by point. Is there friction? Is there delay? Is there potential for frustration? And then what can we learn from other industries, not just our own? Because our own industries tend to mirror each other or become a little stagnant. And we're learning from logistics companies and shipping and financial services and hotel and hospitality. And that's my job as I come in to organizations. I've spoken in 28 countries around the world, is to bring an outside perspective. Here's what we're learning from financial services organizations. Here's what we're learning from manufacturing companies about how do we expedite and how do we become not just efficient and effective and compliant, but how do we become preferable?
Very interesting that you picked up this topic about learning from cross sectors, because more and more clients that I've been meeting with, like who are best in class in their sector, they have started actually benchmarking or asking for NPS benchmarks, not within their own sector, but across sectors. And they are saying
Isn't that
that,
interesting?
tell me, yeah, it's very interesting that
Yeah.
you brought up, like, how do we come up with more challenges for ourselves and learn from what other sectors are doing?
So we used to always have to be one of the best in our industry to compete, right? Or to be able to charge a premium fee. We had to be one of the best in the best. For the first time ever, we're being compared against industries that have nothing to do with what we do. We've never seen that before. Now we're like, well, you don't know where where the process is in the pipeline. Amazon does. Uber can show me exactly where the car is, where they're turning, how long it's going to take to get here. Why can't you do that? Now, is that a fair question? I don't know that it matters. It's just there's a whole new generation of customer and client, whether you're B2B or B2C, whole new generation of expectations driven by some very innovative companies. So it doesn't surprise me at all that they're benchmarking Net Promoter Score and others against other industries, because we're learning a lot from other industries.
Absolutely. And the same customer is getting exposed to those processes. So I'm a customer,
Yeah,
I'm using Amazon, and I'm also using a banking app. So for me, it is but natural to expect my banking app or Amazon experience to be as good as what I'm getting. So it's a fair
right.
question.
Well, we are all customers, and we're all clients and patients and constituents, right? We're all customers of somebody else. So a lot of the expectations, as well as a lot of the learning, can come from our own experiences. One of the things I talk about in my book, Ridiculously Easy to Do Business With, is if there's something that's frustrating for you, then I guarantee it's probably frustrating for your customers as well, right? It's not
Absolutely.
just speed of response in organizations, it's response without issue resolution. That's frustrating. When you call an organization, they say, please listen closely as our menu options have changed. You're going to listen to 9 things that have nothing to do with you, right? If we find ourselves screaming at our phones, agent, real person, agent, right? I guarantee your customers are screaming at their phones too. We work so hard to attract customers and clients that to then frustrate them by our phone system is lunacy.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Especially, yeah, these changing expectations are also driven by the exposure that customers are getting through all these digital channels,
yeah,
as well as global exposure. You are not limited to getting exposed to things which are, say, happening in, say, Dubai or in London. You are actually getting exposed to things which are taking place, say, in Tokyo or in Paris. So the
yeah.
global exposure also changes your expectations.
Well, and there's a good part and a bad part. The good part is we're able to learn from organizations around the world. The hard part is that we're also being compared against all of those. The traditional mechanism when you and I were young and grew up is that people did business with companies within a 3 to 5 mile radius, right? What was your local hardware store or grocery store or restaurants? Now we can buy anything that we can afford from anywhere in the world. Where I live, just south of Denver, Colorado, we have, I think, 2 Amazon warehouses really, really close by. Most of what we order comes on the same day. It's ridiculous. And as a customer, it's awesome. It's wonderful. In business, it's very, very difficult. The good news is, and I think, as you said, because we have access to information, not just organizations around the world, learning around the world, this podcast that you're doing can reach around the world, and it's evergreen, right? It will be out there. This content will be able to be shared for years and years to come. It's an amazing time to learn. It's an amazing time to be in business, whether it's from AI and what that can do to expand our knowledge and our perspective, or just reading case studies and learning from
Absolutely.
others as well. I'm one of these people. I'm a joyful messenger. I think there's really some amazing opportunities. I think the real danger is complacency.
Absolutely, David. And David brings me to another question. Now,
Sure.
we talk about customer expectations and how the businesses they are evolving. Now, you have worked across organization across Singapore, in London, in Paris. Have you noticed any cultural nuances in how business approach their customer experience?
I think of course, there are. There's fewer differences from a digital perspective. From a digital perspective, uh, the processes are fairly similar, and because there's limited human interaction, I think the expectations are very similar. Now, those in remote areas have different expectations in terms of speed or access to products or delivery just because of remote locations. But when it comes to the human experience, very much different. And for all of us who've had the privilege of traveling the world, we see that, right? I saw a very interesting and very sad statistic that said that most Americans don't own a passport. My mom passed away at 69 years old, very young, and she never owned a passport in her life. I've been fortunate to speak in 28 countries in the world. I've traveled to 34. And so to answer your question, there is a different expectation. There's a formality and a gentleness in Asia Pacific. You'll order a burger at a restaurant and they'll hand you your change like it's a valuable document and a crown, the crown jewel with both hands. In America, they'll throw it to you, or throw it on the counter. And it's not because it's disrespectful. It's just a different look, or a different expectation of what that transaction means, right? In Asia, of course, it's such a beautiful people and beautiful culture, but there's that old adage that says the nail that stands up gets hammered down. So being trying to think how best to put this, to be humble, right, is a cultural norm, right? To not in America, I used to joke, I would joke say Americans are great, just ask us, right? And it's not because we're arrogant, it's that it's a very competitive, maybe a louder kind of a market. But in terms of service, I think we're all equally appreciative of great service. I think the expectation is a little different where you go in the world. Of course, in America, there's a very strong tipping culture, and there's some pushback against that today. Other parts of the world, it's not a part of how things are done. So I think it's incumbent upon any of us who do business internationally is to be knowledgeable of what the cultural norms are and to accommodate.
So it's more of the human side which comes into play when you are looking at cultural differences across
Yeah, very
organizations.
much.
Otherwise, the 3 points that you mentioned earlier from customers' expectations or more rational expectations are speed, ease, and convenience.
Yeah. I'll give you another one is uh, accommodation. So if you say speed, convenience, simplicity of process, and the other one, this one's kind of new, is accommodation for unique scenarios. We've been very used in business for decades that there's certain things we don't do. So we just say no, right? Do you offer this? We don't, right? You'll leave a hotel, try and leave early in the morning and say, can I get a late checkout, please? And they say, sorry, no late checkouts. Or you go to a restaurant and you ask for, shrimp or prawns instead of chicken on your noodle dish. And they say no substitutions. Today, more and more, there's an expectation that why not? I mean, if somebody wants something a little bit different, give them something different. If you want to charge them a little bit more, but that kind of flexibility, give me options, give me choices. And the companies who are adept at doing that, who are willing to be flexible, have a huge advantage as opposed to the ones that are very, very, very restrictive. And the danger of being very restrictive is that as customers, we have choices. So if you say no, somebody else might say yes. It doesn't mean that we do everything that our customers want, but I think we have to find ways of saying yes a little more often, even if it's outside the norm. One of the pushbacks I get all the time is companies will say, well, if I do it for you, then we have to do it for everyone. And I tell audiences all the time, no, you don't. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything for everyone. It's your company. So you can have a standard way of doing business. If somebody wants a little special accommodation and you can do it, why wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Customers love that. You gain loyalty. So I think what we're seeing is a push for less restrictive policies, giving choices, options, and choices is giving your customers those choices. I think is a hallmark of where things are going. That level of customization, accommodation.
So
Yeah.
businesses not only simplifying, making it easier, but also accommodating is something which is changing the way they operate, right?
Yeah. Well, let me give you one more, because once again, sometimes the answer is no, right? It doesn't mean the customer's always right. It doesn't mean they get everything that they want. We still have to run a profitable business. If you have a vegan restaurant and somebody wants a buffalo burger, that's not going to happen, right? But here's a great takeaway for people in your audiences, takeaway from my audiences when I speak as well, is sometimes the answer is no, but here's the best response. Even if there's something that you don't do, something you don't offer that a customer asks for, is
Right.
the response is this: let me tell you what I can do. And then anything that follows that that's helpful engenders that loyalty. Even if it's a referral to someone else, if they're struggling with delivery and supply chain, you say, let me tell you what I can do. I'm going to put a marker in my calendar every morning, and I'm going to check for you, and I'll send you an email or a text message. Um, Even if we have to say no, train your people. Let me tell you what I can't do, and then offer something that is of value to them. And customers respond in a really terrific way.
Fantastic. Amazing to hear that.
Yeah.
So, also, David, can you share some example of businesses that you have seen successfully transform their CX strategy to stay competitive and future-proof their business?
Yeah. When I think about it, there's a lot of companies. Doesn't mean they've always done it well. We've seen a lot of companies sort of really embrace AI, chatbots, and digital assistants, and they have a role. Um,
Right.
I think what we're seeing more and more is we're seeing examples of companies using information gathering processes to learn how to be better. And so there's a company that many of us have seen before called Happy or Not, and it's just that little kiosk with the 4 buttons. I was talking to a company out of Malta called APS Bank, and they successfully partnered with Happy or Not. They have those kiosks in their lobby. So not only is there an opportunity for feedback, what's working, what isn't, they captured a lot of people who were just there on property. So the response rate is way over, but then there's also an opportunity for them to go deeper with the questions if they want. And so companies who have a process in place for voice of the customer initiatives, no matter what that process is, the companies that actually examine that data, look for the trends, make differences, make accommodations. We're constantly tweaking, enhancing the model, becoming more customer centric, not just customer focused, right? We're all customer focused. We're all about the customer, but customer centricity requires understanding your customers deeper so that we can make the strategic changes. So the part that's exciting for me is we've gone way beyond net promoter score, which I think in many cases we know can be gamed. Every time we're asked by somebody to give, a company to give them a really positive rating, it's not necessarily a great reflection of reality, but we're seeing some new companies, new technologies that are assisting companies in gathering that information, what worked, what didn't, what was frustrating, what delayed them, and why. And making those changes gives an opportunity for any company to be better.
So it's not just collecting the information or feedback, but also doing those changes. I think you stressed a
Sure.
lot on that point,
Yeah.
which will make
And
you future-proof.
absolutely. And that's how you future proof, by doing this on a regular basis. It doesn't mean that everything the customer wants that they get, but I think you can certainly identify trends. Here's a point of friction, a point of frustration or delay that is being mentioned again and again. If we can look across our industry, is everybody doing it the same way? Well, that doesn't give us an excuse to not change it. It gives us an opportunity to differentiate. Everybody else is doing it the way they've been doing it for 40 years. We found a way to help our customers, our clients get what they want faster. I mean, the example I always use is nobody wants to stand in line at the buffet if you just want to refill your drink, right? Help your people skip to what they want to get it faster. And that data collection, doing something with it is really important.
Finally, David, for leaders who are listening today, what's one piece of advice you would give to start making their businesses easier to work with and truly customer-centric?
I think the first thing to do is to take a step back and congratulate yourself for the work that you've done, but then literally start at the beginning and ask at every point of contact, is that the way it should be done? Could we do it better, faster, smarter, more intuitively, simplify the process, and make it an initiative within your organization, maybe semi-annually. Go through each point of saying, how much has changed? Could we do that faster? We're seeing that from a technology perspective, right? They're trying to shave a tenth of a second. How can we just keep getting better and better? The biggest danger is don't be complacent.
No,
Just because you're good, yeah, the way you do business, you may be very good at what you do. I don't say complacent is lazy. It just means we're resting on our laurels.
yes,
And so,
sometimes people tend to get into that comfort zone.
Yeah, because they're good, right? I've heard people that really criticize you getting in your comfort zone, you're lazy. No, you're in your comfort zone because you're really good at what you do. But what works today may not work in 6 months, or at least not as well as somebody else. And that's where you're vulnerable from a competitor.
Great. So keep challenging and keep
Absolutely.
pushing yourselves. That's the key message that you want to convey.
Yeah, absolutely.
So David, that brings us to end of our discussion on the topic. Now I've got a fun session for you. It's what I call rapid fire, and I've got some randomly generated questions. I'll throw
Okay.
those questions to you, and you have to come up with answers spontaneously. You're ready?
All right. I am ready. Let's do it.
Okay. What's the most memorable place you have given a keynote?
Most memorable place. Boy, I'm very fortunate. I've been able to speak all around the world. Probably the most memorable is I spoke on the main stage for the famed $1 million roundtable, which is life 10,000 life insurance professionals from around the world, was in Bangkok, Thailand, speaking for 10,000 people. They did more real-time translations with people doing different languages. Everybody's wearing headphones. And it was an amazing experience. The most beautiful, gracious people. But anytime you're looking out at 10,000 people on a flat convention center floor, it was pretty amazing. A great honor.
Great. Ready for the next?
Ready.
One CX trend you think is overhyped?
It's overhyped. AI, clearly. There's a great future. I'm not naive. But right now, people have embraced it in such a positive way, such a passionate way when it comes to customer experience, that they think it's an excuse to no longer talk to their customers. They've rolled out AI chatbots and digital assistants. And I tell companies all the time, AI is not to be deployed so you don't have to talk to your customers. It's so that you can offload pedestrian issues so that you have the time and the bandwidth to talk to the customers who need you. So embracing AI is great. It's not an excuse to extract humans from the process.
Absolutely. It's just an enabler.
Yeah, it's another tool. It's not
Uh,
the other tool. It's another tool in addition to all your other tools.
Great. Ready for the next one?
Sure.
Your favorite business book or podcast?
Book or podcast. I just read an amazing book by a guy named Roger Dooley, and the book is called Friction. And
Okay.
so I pause, and I've become friends with him since. I was so impressed with the book. It's about all the points in our life where there are things that cause us frustration and delays, and it made me better at what I do. But I told him I also resented him a little bit because now I look at the world and I recognize all the things that make me angry and the things that shouldn't, and I know that they should be able to do those better. A lot of great research, a fascinating read. Friction by Roger Dooley. Highly recommended.
Thank you. Thank you for the recommendation. Ready
Yeah,
for the next one?
let's do it.
Best piece of advice you have ever received?
Best piece of advice. My father used to say to me all the time, remember that no one will share your sense of urgency. And I didn't appreciate it when I was a teenager, but today, when he said, no one will share your sense of urgency, just because it's important to me doesn't mean it's important to someone else. Just because I want an answer back quickly, just because I've created a proposal for a consulting contract and it's not necessarily on the top of their list, they'll get to it. That not everybody is me, right? Dr. Tony Alessandra talks about, we all grew up with the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. He talks about the platinum rule: do unto others as they would have done unto themselves. In other words, don't treat people the way you want to be treated. Treat them like they want to be treated, because we're different. And so I see the wisdom in my father's words. Just because it's important to me right now, it doesn't mean it's important to someone else right now. And having that respect in the conversation.
Very wise indeed. Final question.
Yes.
If you could improve customer experience of any company, which one would it be?
Okay, this is an interesting one. And it's a category as much as it is a company. Any company or service provider where you have a contract and you can't get out of that contract, it gives them an excuse to not give great service. And the mobile phone carriers are probably the worst because they know you can't just leave and go somewhere else because you're tied to a contract with your phone. And I've had problems with Verizon. I've had problems with T-Mobile. They're very hard to resolve. They work very hard to market and to attract you. But once you're in, it's very difficult to resolve issues. It's very difficult to cancel a contract. So if I could change any, I would get rid of the contracts and let the free open market decide, just like for every other product, you can buy milk from whoever you want. We don't have a contract that we have to buy milk from one company so they can provide bad service. And I think the mobile phone carriers have gotten away with terrible service for a very long time. And I'm ready for that to change.
You picked up a category. I hope my friends in mobile phone industry are listening to this podcast. Thank you, David. A huge
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom, strategies, and expertise today. Much appreciated.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it very much. If people want to learn more about me, you can just look me up, just my name, davidavrin.com, information about my books and everything else.
And they're all available on Amazon. Easily available, right? And to my audience, we hope this conversation has inspired you to rethink how your businesses can become more customer-centric and future-proof. Until next time, keep simplifying your customer experience and driving impactful results. Thank you all.